pedophiles and rapists in questions, and indeed pedophile rapist in question, being charged, tried, and convicted of such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. So that is false. The pretext for accusing me of blasphemous libel is essentially bearing false witness against me. It's a lie. But here's where it gets interesting. Even if I actually was doing what the Unitarian Universalist Association's Canadian attorney accused me of, that is making unfounded allegations, the behavior in question would not actually constitute blasphemous libel. It might be ordinary libel, and even that's open to some question, but at best, it would be ordinary libel against the Unitarian Universalist ministers in question, and possibly ordinary libel against the Unitarian Universalist religious community, but it would not be the criminal act of blasphemous libel, because blasphemous libel it's blasphemy. You're attacking, the most deeply held religious beliefs of a religious community. You're attacking what religious community holds to be sacred and holy. That's what blasphemy is in the usual interpretation of the law in Canada. So unless, this is where it gets not only interesting, but kind of, well, hilarious is not the best word to use, because it's not, it's very unfunny on one level, but it's ludicrous. I think ludicrous and yes, it's laughable, even though it's not really fun. It's funny and not funny kind of thing. Essentially what it comes down to, the only way I could be guilty of the criminal act of blasphemous libel for criticizing Unitarian Universalist pedophiles or rapists is if such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape were held to be sacred and holy by the Unitarian Universalist religious community. That's, it is funny, that they so stupidly, falsely accuse me of blasphemous libel in a way that makes them look like complete idiots. I mean, just check the jurisprudence. The law itself is incredibly vague. It may be that the UUA's Canadian attorney, Maitre Marc-André Coulombe of Stikeman Elliott Barristers and Solicitors, didn't even bother to check the jurisprudence for blasphemy law cases in Canada. He might not have even bothered to check, what exactly is blasphemous libel. He might have just only found, oh look, we got this prohibition against blasphemous libel, we'll use that, without even checking the implications, because that's what the implication is. In accusing me of blasphemous libel for criticizing such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape committed by certain Unitarian Universalist ministers, Maitre Marc-André Coulombe essentially implied that pedophilia and rape are held sacred by the Unitarian Universalist religious community, because that's what the usual interpretation of the law is. That's what the jurisprudence is you're attacking what's held to be sacred and holy by the religion. So just incredibly foolish misuse of Canada's blasphemy law in immoral, unethical, borderline criminal, and yes, batshit crazy clergy sex abuse cover-up legal bullying. And on that note, we're wrapping it up. The wind's been blowing around my freestanding picket signs a little bit too much, and my voice is a little on the hoarse side. So I think we're done for today. It's probably close to 11 o'clock. I normally wrap things up around 11 unless something unusual happens. So yeah, we're calling it a day. I actually do have other things to do, such as uploading the photos of the vigil in support of the Women's March on Washington yesterday. And I have the videos to review. And one of the things I'm going to be doing is reviewing what Montreal Unitarian Sue Montgomery said. Because she did in fact speak. And quite interestingly, one of the things she said, and she went into a bit of a spiel about it. It wasn't just a brief little phrase or one sentence. It's basically almost a whole paragraph or so dedicated to encouraging people to, support independent media, support independent journalists, and to dig up dirt on the powerful and so on. Well, guess what, Sue Montgomery? I'm still waiting for you to dig up the dirt behind the Unitarian Universalist Association's misuse of blasphemy law to hide such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. You're the great champion of victims of sexual assault and so on. I mean, seems a little out of alignment with your claimed beliefs to be totally ignoring the fact that your religious community, has a bit of a clergy sex abuse problem. In fact, a fairly significant one, Sue, if you're listening. The Unitarian Universalist religious community has a minimum, a rock-bottom minimum of 400 congregations that have been affected by clergy sexual misconduct of one kind or another since 1961, I guess. And actually the number is probably higher, because what happens, Sue, if you're listening, is that some Unitarian Universalist ministers, interim ministers who fill in when a minister resigns as a result of anything, but specifically being caught in sexual misconduct. Usually what happens is the minister's persuaded to resign from the... Good day, sir.
I was lost.
What?
I didn't know the way back.
Did you find the... Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I'm happy I see you, because I was lost.
Okay, no worries.
I got this way.
So are you just visiting, or...?
Physically, yeah, I'm a DJ. I play in a club last night.
Oh, really? Okay, okay.
I'm a little bit seeing the...
Yeah, no. Which club?
Circus. Circus, after hours.
Turkish?
Circus.
Circus, okay.
After hours.
Are you playing again, or?
Next month, 2 months, maybe.
Okay, so you're in Montreal for a little while?
No, I go back.
You go back and then you come back?
Yeah.
Okay, well, hope you enjoy Montreal. Yeah. So this guy's, he asked me where he could find a supermarket earlier in a previous video. Anyway, just to wrap this up, and this again is for Sue Montgomery. A minimum of 400 congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association are congregations that were affected by at least one case of clergy sexual misconduct. In fact, some congregations have had multiple ministers that are guilty of clergy sexual misconduct. So not just one minister, but 2 or 3, or possibly even more, but certainly 2, sometimes 3 ministers over a period of so many decades are guilty of clergy sexual misconduct in certain Unitarian Universalist congregations. A certain number of Unitarian Universalist ministers are guilty of pedophilia, that is sexual abuse of children, young children, preteen children essentially. I mean, I define pedophilia as sexual sexual abuse of children that are not teenagers. You know, basically, you know, I think you could even bring it into the early teens. But I wouldn't say, you know, for instance, Reverend Mac Mitchell, who raped teenage Tibetan refugees who, if I understand it correctly, were about 16 years old when the rapes began. I'm not quite sure if he fits the definition of pedophile. Certainly rapist, though. Definitely rapist. And he's not the only one. So yes, Sue, this is your religious community, and it's been trying to hide this stuff, and you've essentially stayed out of it. You know, you know about this stuff. I've told you about this stuff. You've certainly got the opportunity to do some research and do some proper investigative journalism, but you never did that, did you, Sue? No, you buried the story because it was your church, and you didn't want your church to be embarrassed. That's what it comes down to, Sue. And that's what makes you a gigantic hypocrite, in my view, Sue. So yeah, you know. Oh, by the way, Sue, when are you going to file papers for that libel accusation you brought against me? You know, the libel accusation that accused me of libel for telling the well-documented truth about you. Just wondering, Sue, when you're going to file papers, because if I remember correctly, the cease and desist demand letter that you had Mark Banty have me served with on December 4th of 2014 said that you would not hesitate to take legal action against me for my alleged libel if I didn't, you know, make everything disappear. Well, you know very well that I didn't make a single comma disappear. Everything that was up December 4th of 2012 is still up, and on top of that, I haven't shut up. I'm still telling the truth about you, Sue. So when are we going to court? When are you going to stop hesitating to accuse me of libel? When are you going to bring it to court, Sue? When are you going